There we go.
Okay, we're good to go.
All right, Chris, are you with us?
Yes, I am.
Okay, awesome. Just so, yeah, so everybody knows, we have a quorum and this is a special District 4 board meeting. Chris, do you have any sort of kind of preamble that you would need to go over like we typically do on our regular meetings, or should I just kind of dive into it?
I can go ahead and read parts of the special meeting notice.
Yes, please.
Due to public health concerns and the CDC's guidelines for social distancing, the public will not be permitted to physically attend the commissioner meeting. The board will not be meeting in person and made arrangements to have their meeting via Zoom meetings. Members of the public can view the meeting via live stream at www.nwfrs.net under district meetings. And today on the agenda, we have the levy lift process for the November 2021 election. That's it.
Great, thank you. Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, so Chris and Karen and Heather, thanks for taking time out of your really busy day to be with us here today. As you heard, that's pretty much, you guys are sort of the item on today's agenda for this special meeting. A couple of weeks ago, when the board had the regular meeting, we were sort of debriefing the levy lift process. Some questions came up, and specifically about the mailer and how, you know, if and when we might continue our relationship for November and what that would look like. And so the board thought it would be best to maybe, you know, have this opportunity to hear from you all directly and kind of debrief what your thoughts are, and yeah, just kind of see how we move forward and kind of what happened in our rearview mirror. So that, I just wanted to tee it off. I don't know which one of you wants to start driving.
Well, I'm happy to jump in, Karen and Heather, if you want me to. So this is Chris Fawcett and Commissioner Cooley. It's nice to meet you. We've met Commissioner Land and Commissioner Andrews in the past. Just for a little background and context, North Whatcom Fire and Rescue had reached out to, I think, Karen and Heather first, and they were helping work on the work around the RFA. And then when that shifted to be a levy lid lift for the last election, this team came together to support primarily at first District 21. And then when it was apparent that both districts would be going to the ballot, we provided some light support around a mailer and an FAQ and some suggestions about potential ways to gain some visibility, particularly in the short amount of time that the commissioners had. We're all really disappointed that neither of these ballots were successful. We've done a lot of thinking around it. Both Karen and I have worked on these ballot measures for a number of fire districts over the last numerous years and have had successes on all of them. I think there were definitely some things that contributed, and those are things that I think hopefully can be overcome. Generally, when we look at these measures, we kind of like to look at them with a three-legged stool approach, things that we think either have to or don't have to happen. And what generally provides for success is that there's no organized opposition, because opposition makes people wonder and then usually vote no. There needs to be union support, some strong visibility. I think most of you know, but if not, we should reiterate that the fire district cannot advocate for this. All you can do is educate, and all you can do is use tools and communications channels that you have been using for a while. And that's something that I think has been a bit of a challenge in this front too, is that, you know, you're a smaller district, so you have fewer tools available that you use on an ongoing basis because you're putting all your resources into doing the work that you do. So that's understandable, but makes it a little more challenging as an agency to actually then kind of beef up and do this major public education effort. And then the third leg that we generally like to see, and you do have, is really strong leadership and a chief that's willing to sort of take this effort on their shoulders and get out there and be super visible. One thing that is also really important that I think we'll really be calling upon all of you, if you would like us to help you, is that you guys also need to put it on your shoulders and get out there and talk to your neighbors about talk to them about the facts of this. Particularly up in your more rural neighborhoods, there's fewer like existing events, and with COVID, there's fewer opportunities to like hand out information that generally are ways that it's nice to get information out. And so it's going to be important to actually do that kind of carrying of the water from now until November. So I think there's some more things that we could talk about and more importantly, moving forward. But just, that's a little background and some initial thoughts that I had off the top of my head. I don't know if Heather and Karen, you want to add anything to that.
What floats to my mind is the 27-year gap since the last time there was a tax increase. And since the service has been provided reliably in those 27 years, it's a heavy lift to convince people that this year's any different. That was a real stumbling block.
Yeah. And I think one lesson learned from that, your voters just don't have that muscle memory or the mindset of the need to take on this challenge and vote yes for it. And definitely the messaging was more positive in the sense of this is what you will get if you do it. And now thinking moving forward, there may be a need to do a more of a the tone is more concerned and committed to making sure that these consequences that you will get if you do not have additional funding are going to come to fruition. Your service will be impacted. And that was a message, definitely, but you hate to go dark right out of the gate. But I think you guys are really in that place where there's not wiggle room for you any longer. And if voters don't see the value in funding, providing more funding, then their services are going to be impacted. It's just a fact. So, I guess one thing to think a little bit about moving forward is, and to reiterate and make sure it's really clear that as a district, there are limitations in what you can and cannot do around elections. And if you look at successful ballot measures, there's generally a strong component of the union doing their own effort where they can advocate outside of regular work time. So that's a pretty key point. And generally, we can help you provide tools to get out and carry that message, but there is a limitation in terms of certainly what you can say. The effort is not limited. You all can talk to your neighbors. You all can go to community events where there are opportunities. You all can share facts with community leaders who can then hopefully broaden that reach. But you cannot you cannot ask people to vote yes for this. And so there's a bit of a challenge there, especially as we mentioned when, there's the mailer that you can do, the one mailer, there's some existing channels that you may be able to use, but you really are going to have to rely a bit on your union to step up and get some visibility around this.
Right. Push the message forward.
Hey, Chris, would one of you, and those are all really good points. And so speaking about the mailer and outreach, would one of you be willing to talk about it seems to have happened that maybe the mailer didn't reach all of our voters? Do we know, how many people we may have missed or what may have caused that? And if we do this again, how we might prevent that from happening again?
I can take that, Chris, if you like.
That'd be great.
So, Mark, do you live on Xander? Is that correct?
No, I'm up on Squalicum Mountain.
No, this is Andrews. He lives on Xander.
Commissioner Andrews, you live on Xander. Okay. So I spoke with the mail house about the creation of the list, and they used the Whatcom County Fire District map to set the boundaries of which addresses were in and which addresses were out. We do have now that entire list. So if anybody wants to pour through it, they are welcome to it. Since I emailed it to Jason, it's now a public document, so it's out there. Commissioner Andrews, the mail house is absolutely stumped about what happened to yours. Every single other address on Xander that is in the district was on the list. And for reasons that they cannot explain, your address was omitted. For you, Commissioner Land, your address is on the list. That their story, therefore, is that the piece went to that address. What happened to it from the mailbox? Hard to say.
Oh, no, I got mine. And in fact, I got mine.
Oh, it was Dave Hansen, wasn't it?
Yeah,
Sorry.
I got mine the same day I got my ballot. So in my mind, it was perfect, but
As planned.
Yeah, sorry.
yeah,
Let me
Commissioner,
back up. It was Dave
And-
Hansen's address that is in fact on the list, and still with the conclusion of, once it's on the list and USPS delivers it, there's no way to know. I mean, is he married? Did his wife say, what is this? And put it right in the recycle bin. But that
Sure.
address was a good address. Commissioner Andrews is a much bigger mystery. They have no idea why one address on Xander was omitted.
Commissioner
Well,
Cooley, did you get
Harry, didn't you say you had some neighbors though that said they didn't get it either?
Yeah, I did. And not only that, but I've used these mailers when I've run for election 2 times, and the
Mhm.
company I used, I had no problem at all. So
Mhm.
I'm thinking maybe before we paid these people, we ought to think about changing companies.
What did you use, Commissioner Andrews?
I can't think of the name of it right now, but I've used it twice.
Well, let us know. My understanding is that the group that we used is the same one that the elections department uses up there.
Yes, it is.
It's not like, yeah, it's a group that should have had all the stuff correct. And I think if they didn't, that really is very frustrating. And it maybe it's worth a sit down for those of you who are more familiar with all the addresses in the district and take a look at it and see if you can see anything that looks wonky.
Well, I sent that list to Chris Parks earlier today. And within about 10 minutes, she was able to come up with several spots that have been annexed into the city of Bellingham that are still on that list. So I'm going to get a couple of our analytical nerds that work in Station 12's area to take a look at that list.
Right.
And go through and see if they want to split up. And I can't make them audit it, but I can certainly have them, maybe they'll take it on as a fun project and see what we can come up with if we want to move forward with Lewis Publishing.
Right.
And I would just add to that, we generally like to use a local mail house and printer when doing these. There are certainly Seattle mail houses that we use on other fronts that are quite reliable and good that we can go to. This was one that I think the district has used before, has used successfully before. As Karen mentioned, they do the Whatcom County voters pamphlet. So, they're definitely a credible mail house. It's disappointing that there may have been some confusion. And so I think we just as a group, or you really need to decide, was this just sort of a one-off? And is this somewhere you want to go back to because they are a local entity? Or like Commissioner Andrews said, is there another local print house that you know is solid and good? I don't think that the mailer is what made or break this election by any means, but you do want to make sure that the one piece that you have is getting to where you want it to go.
Well, I talked to Dave Hansen at length, and he said he did not, no matter what these lists are showing, get one of them. And he said his neighbors did not either. So I think that we're trying to beat a dead horse here. We got to think about the election coming up. The election that we lost is lost. Let's move on.
Yeah. But do it wisely. You know, if there's a concern that this isn't the right outfit to use, then we're very open. And like I said, there are other mail houses that we use regularly, but we tend to like to use, there's a goodwill that I think makes sense to use a local vendor.
Okay. Well, I'm just trying to think about, you know, the unfinished business we have. You know, quite frankly, we pulled the, there was a pay, Chris, what's it called? The thing that we pulled
Voucher.
where the voucher, the payment voucher, we withheld payment to somebody because we wanted some questions addressed. And I guess just as leading or facilitating sort of the business side of this arrangement, I guess I just need to make sure that, you know, Harry and Steve, do we have any other questions that we think this group might be able to answer for us, so that we can move forward with some of that old business, that voucher? You know, we do need to pay our bills. We obviously had some questions that we needed to talk about, but then in the future, you know, we also, I guess, maybe, you know, Harry or Steve, if you want to ask some questions about what ramping up for November might look like with this group, so that we can feel good about whether we make that decision today or at our next regular meeting, because the clock is ticking and all these professionals do need time to work.
Commissioner Land, if I could, just real quick.
Yes, please.
I just wanted to give my humble endorsement of the three ladies you see sit here before you. I can't do what they do. Chris and I cannot together, Chris Parks and I could not replicate what they've done for us, even haven't seen it being done once. Chris, you can disagree with me. Sorry, I shouldn't have said that without asking you first, but I just,
You're correct.
knowing our skill sets, we don't have the skills these ladies have.
Yeah.
I feel that each of them brings a very important piece, much like Chris Fawcett started off by talking about, I believe what you said, a three-legged stool. These three ladies are a three-legged stool that is going to tip if we don't have one of the legs. Karen started off with us in the RFA process, has really been with us from, I would say, birth of us really working well together. She's seen some of the ugly parts. She's seen the good parts. She is able to wordsmith things kind of like no other and get messages mashed down to a digestible piece. Heather knows the mechanics of getting things up and running as far as getting the message out. She's got the relationships with the advertisers. You know, these are pre-established. She knows exactly the most cost-effective way to get the public outreach that we require to get done, the most cost-effective way to get it advertised. And Chris Fawcett is just an amazing thinker. She has the art skills and the art, the people that can do the art behind her and supporting her. She's worked, both her and Karen and Heather, for that matter, have all worked on a lot of successful things. They're as befuddled as we are. I think, you know, I had told each of them when they started that, well, welcome to Whatcom County, you're in for a ride. And they were all like, oh, come on, kiddo, this isn't so bad. and now they're like, oh, okay, this guy knows what he's talking about. But they're up for the challenge. They're still smiling. You know, I'm trying to encourage them. They've done a wonderful job for us. I can't thank them enough. I try to thank them every time I see them, but I would humbly ask that we continue. The District 4 board continues the relationship we have with what I call the comms team. They are wonderful to work with, and I do see that now we've gone to the voters, and we're going to come back in November, and maybe that's the muscle memory we need. maybe hearing the message twice. Unfortunately, as expensive as that's going to be for the taxpayer at large, that's what we had to do. Now we have some data. We have some bad data and we have some good data, so that will help us moving forward. But I know we can't do what they do on our own, and we need them to support us in this time.
Yeah, thank you, Jason. Very, very well put. In my very, very short tenure and time here with the fire district, I came into the middle of things when Karen was helping facilitate the RFA process, and I was nothing but impressed. So I echo what you just said. I would hope that we would move forward with this team. But yeah, I won't repeat everything you said, Jason. Steve, I see a little hand up.
Thanks. I just wanted to respond to you, kind of your request for how Harry and I are feeling about this. Of course, I'm only speaking for myself. I think, so I'm just going to kind of lay out a couple of things on what my thoughts are so you know where I'm coming from. Yeah, I think we have some indication here that there might have been some small problems. What I'm not seeing, at least as far as we can tell, are widespread indications of widespread problems. So based on that and the fact that we've also let the company know that we had some issues, and our past successes with this team and all of the people we've been using, I see no reason not to move forward with paying the bill that we owe and also giving this another shot. I do think now that we're aware this could happen, we need to pay a little bit more attention this time. For instance, talking to our neighbors and perhaps getting word from the team here on exactly when the flyer is going to be mailed out. And we probably got that word last time too, but we didn't know we had to pay this much attention. So if we get word on if we do another mailer or whatever, we need to get good word on when that went to the post office and then start watching mailboxes and making sure that it's actually getting out. So to wrap up what I was saying with that part of it, I see no reason personally not to move forward with continuing to work with the same team. I would be a little concerned that we're a little late in the game. Time is short. I don't think we have a lot of time to switch teams at this point, so to speak. With that said, I guess I would wondering today if we could cover or at least talk a little bit more about what are our concrete next steps. You mentioned talking with the union and getting the union to get the word out. I'd kind of like to know who's going to do that and how that's going to happen. And then what are our other suggestions for before November? What can we do? Are we doing another flyer? Someone mentioned a voucher. Is that different than a flyer?
Oh, no, that was me,
Something
Steve.
different.
I was trying to look for the name of the item that we pulled from our
Right.
our consent agenda that we pay everybody in one fell swoop. We approved those vouchers. We had specifically pulled this one. We didn't want to pay it until we had this kind of conversation.
I got you. Yeah, so that makes sense. So I guess that's kind of where I would leave it. I'm interested. What else can we be doing besides talking to the union, perhaps doing another flyer? What else are there concrete things that we can be doing?
Well, I'm sorry, go ahead, Commissioner Land.
Oh, no, I was just going to say, yeah, thank you, Steve. That's excellent points. Very, very well put. So before we talk about those next steps, though, I guess I would ask Harry, did you want to weigh in then on kind of, the past voucher that we pulled, and if what your feelings are on moving forward with the same team to ramp up for November, so we can kind of see where we are as a board.
Well, I personally want to second the chief's position. I think we ought to keep our same team. They know what's going on a lot more than we do, and move on towards our next election, and also with another brochure. Maybe put down a little bit of the negatives too that would happen if it didn't pass and things like that. Maybe force our people to realize that this is critical, and let's go from there.
Okay, sounds good. So just on the business side of things, Chris, if you could just kind of make a note as we're putting together the consent agenda for the next meeting, we want to make sure that we get this voucher, reinserted so that we can typically approve that with all the others.
Yeah, I'll put the invoice on the voucher.
That was sort of the unanimous consent I was hearing from the board.
Okay.
And then, yeah, great segue then into next steps. Where do we go from here? What's that going to look like? Timeline, if y'all want to kind of walk us through that a little bit.
I can take a starter stab at that unless you would like to, Chris.
Go ahead, I can fill in. I mean, I'm happy to also lay out if you want. I don't, either way.
Right. Well, a lot of the tactics that we can do are the ones that we would recommend you do again. And then I think, and so we would recommend that you go ahead and do another mailer. And we agreed with Commissioner Andrews that we're going to have to speak more to concerns of what's going to happen if this doesn't pass now. And so the tone may be slightly darker because that reality is now really in the windshield. So it'll be sort of the same messages, but some of the additional information for that we would want from you is to think very concretely about what are the differences going to be between your budget if this passes and if this doesn't pass, and give us some really concrete examples. They may all be coming out of District 21 shop since they're providing the operation for you. But just sort of, if it's deferral of, continued deferral of the purchase of 17 new vehicles, all of whose lifetime has expired. We were going to make a big dent in that next year. We're not going to be able to do that anymore. And just sort of go through and very concretely identify those things. That would be thing number one we need from you in order to take another run at the verbiage on the voter mailer. In terms of the calendar, the voters pamphlet is mailed on October 12th. The ballots are mailed on October 13th. And that means at least 2 weeks before then, we need to have signed off on all of the verbiage that's going in there. We'll work with you on that again, as we did before. We will update the FAQ that's on your website to let folks know about this. Again, that information about what's going to happen with the budget, if this passes, if this doesn't passes, will influence that FAQ. And then in terms of the three-legged stool, we've been thinking, again, there's a very limited amount of stuff that we can do for you that falls within the public education realm, and we will continue to do all of those things that we can think of for you. It's really the outside of that realm where you can't be spending district resources, but you can spend your personal time and you can spend your personal resources if that's important to you. The union people can spend their personal time and their personal resources to get the word out in ways and to advocate in ways that we cannot with public money. And so in addition to the budget, I think, as Chris alluded, you all may want to talk offline about specific, numbers of people that each of you commissioners want to make sure you reach out to on your own time, on your own dime, and talk to them about what's going on here. You may want to look at inviting reporters in. That can be just a public information thing. That's just regular old public education. And we did a lot of that in the last round. We'll do it again this round. We may want to ask you again to take another look as a team about are there any community groups, formal or informal, that the three of you commissioners can identify in the district that you could go speak to, or the chief could go speak to, and just give them the information. If it's the chief, he's just the fax man. He's going to give them the information about this and he can answer any questions. And they could do this as a group Zoom. They could do this in person if they're so inclined, whatever works for them. But if the three of you gentlemen have ideas of groups, even if it's homeowners associations or block groups of, safe streets groups, just put your head, just come up with make a list of 10 of them and then compare your lists. And then we'll sit down with you and we'll map it out on a calendar to make sure you guys can reach out and talk to all of them. And if they want public information, Jason can go. And then you can think about, well, if they don't want public information, is there something that we can do to get them the facts and to otherwise talk with them? So I would say make a list not only of groups, but of leaders in the community, your friends, people that know people, just try to talk. If you could each talk to 50 people in your community, and just that will make a difference. You are community leaders. 2 of you are on the ballot this fall. You have reason to be out there talking to the community. And now you have 2 reasons to be out there talking to your neighbors in the community. And again, if it's a campaign work, it has to be done on your own time, but it's an important part of the effort. Certainly we'll be making sure that the union has the facts that they can use on their own time to get the word out. And I think that will hopefully be a much more robust effort than it was last time. As Chris said, we none of us on this screen here have, the 3 of us have not participated in an election before, which we did not win. So this is certainly very frustrating. And when we sit back and we look at, well, what the heck happened? We're trying to work around what we see may have happened, but it's not all stuff that anybody here can control. But we can just give it our best shot again and be more aware of the need for some of those other legs of the stool to be fully functional in order to be successful. I'm going to stop with that and let Chris and Heather chime in.
Well, I would just add that, I mean, we can again arm you with the talking points, once we get sort of what the consequences are of not getting more funding. We can give you those talking points, but again, we can't talk to those community leaders. And honestly, a good way of just broadening that reach is if you can even identify 5 other people that represent different types of groups or connect with different types of individuals in the community that you could sit down and have coffee with and tell them why this is an important thing. Then hopefully you can educate them, and then they will be talking to their neighbors as they're out and about. The mailer that we talk about is something that the PDC does allow. That's why we recommend it, especially with an agency that doesn't have a whole lot of news. I mean, District 21 has newsletters and has Twitter and whatnot, but District 4 is a smaller district. That's reasonable that you don't have it. But you need that mailer, but that mailer will just go into the circular file if there's not these other discussions happening, because it's also the general, and there's going to be other mailers that are going to those households. So what is going to make the difference, I promise, is that one-on-one touch that you guys can provide. And we will arm you to the hilt to have those discussions. If you go talk with somebody and they ask you a question that you can't answer, we will give you an answer to do it, but we cannot do it. And so that is, I do believe that is what the difference will be. If your community sees you guys, they see your firefighters telling them how important this is, that is going to make the difference, not a mailer. But we are here to help you be effective. There are groups that have listservs. We can develop a blurb of information that drives them back to the website that you can get in their newsletters or other newsletters. We did a lot of that with District 21, and where there were those venues, there were positive outcomes in those areas.
Yes.
And so it's just more of that has to happen. One thing I would suggest is that this group gets together and meets on a regular basis so we can keep tasking you and keeping you on task. Because we are asking a lot for you. We can arm you, but we cannot do it.
Mm-hmm.
And you guys also know your communities better than we do. You know who people go to during election time and ask for their opinion. That's who you need to talk to. And are there back to school hooks that we can take advantage of? Is there a Halloween event that we can put some information in? We can try and prime the pump for you to help you think about it and give you some other, suggestions and whatnot that you can then run with. And then as an aside separately, and I know the chief has had these discussions. The union just needs to do their thing away from what you're doing separately. And that's putting up yard signs, doing, door hangers, whatever it is that will make a difference in this as well.
The only two things that I would add is that we absolutely agree that the next mailer, I would never recommend a black campaign, which is all negative scare tactics. This isn't the right environment for that right now. There's a lot of scare stuff out there, but it's a really ugly thing to do, and it leaves a bad taste in people's mouths. But we are comfortable with a pale gray campaign. We need to tell people what the consequences are, and we think the overriding message should be concerned and committed. Clearly, here's what you get, didn't work. So now we need to tell them, here's exactly why you should give these districts your money. Here are the reasons. Here's what you're risking. And then we lay out what those things are. The other thing is we did also talk about the union, and we advocate that they do door hangers. And that means walking these neighborhoods and putting the campaign media on the mat, the door, the whatever. If somebody answers the door, that's fine. But in a COVID environment, too many people are wary of that. But a door hanger that says, we came by today with pictures of firefighters to ask for your vote, and the union can do that, the district cannot. But that one-on-one contact, like Chris just mentioned, whether it's from the commissioners, the chief, or the union, that's a game changer.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, as a starter, if you want us to, just be our bossy little selves, if we want to get together next week with you guys, and you come back, your homework is bring back the list of every community group you can think of, and bring back the names of 20 people that you personally can reach out to that you think might be opinion leaders, and make that commitment to each other. That can just be on a public education basis, and we will get you armed and ready to go, as Chris said.
Community groups don't have to be physical gatherings. Are you guys a part of Facebook groups, for example?
Or do you meet up?
Right. Meet up, whatever. They can be virtual. Any way, any channel to get this message further into the community, deeper into the community.
Are there local blogs, are there is there, online forums that are regular, just any opportunity that you can then insert factual information. And a lot of those entities are looking for information. So, they often have holes in their newsletters that they want to fill. So just thinking about any way that you think people in your community get information, let's tap it.
The swim club. I don't know.
Right.
Yeah.
So I'm
like
certainly.
the idea. Oh, go ahead, Steve.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, I'm certainly in favor of the deliverable that Karen was suggesting, that we come back with that. The other piece of that, I just want to emphasize, I'm going to need some information to be armed with.
Yeah.
That's, if that could be deliverable as well, that would be great. Because I'm all for this kind of thing. I've got a couple of things in mind already, but I'm going to need the information.
Yeah, no,
So-
we will give you cheat sheets. We have a little info card. I mean, those are the kinds of things and like I said, too, is while you're out and about talking to people, if you're getting feedback that you think is different or there's misinformation out there, we did that. The chief was really good when he would go present. He'd come back and say, I got kind of this odd question. So then it was like, we put that on the FAQ as a question. So yes, absolutely.
Yeah, keep notes. What kind of topics, what came out, what made them want to say, I understand this, what was confusing or made them skeptical? Let us know, and we'll try to make sure we always get the facts out there.
This is going to be serious retail, education. This is on the ground, one-on-one, and your district is geographically large, but number wise, not so large. So those like one-on-one conversations, like 20 voters can make a difference. For sure.
Mm-hmm.
So the other big deliverable that we talked about was just the budget implications. And I don't know what Jason and Chris's sense of, as it's early in budget season for now, but I think that needs to be moved sort of the top of the pile for us to be able to have messages that are in any way substantively really different than what they were in November. The delta is that. Otherwise, we can certainly provide the same top talking points that we provided for the last go around, but the new information is going to be out of your budget considerations. So,
Right.
Yeah, we can say service will be impacted, response times will be slower, but if there's real like nitty gritty stuff that we can talk about, that would help a
The more
lot.
specific, the better.
Yeah.
so if for now, I'm going to be in Orcas and I can try to dial in next week, but we can certainly come back with what the current messages are in terms of the 5 things that you would say to your neighbors. Those are pretty much ready to go.
Mhm.
And if then an agenda item 2 would be your lists of community groups and your lists of voters and how you guys want to approach them individually. And then maybe an update from Jason and Chris that are thinking about the budget implications in the next 1 year and 2 years. I think that's really the near-term time frame implications. We can also talk longer term. Vehicles are going to be more unreliable. We will not have additional capacity to respond when we get increasingly frequent multiple calls. You'll have to wait for that aid car to come take you to the hospital a lot longer than you would otherwise. Things like that. So we've got the longer term and we've got the general. We need any of those near-term specifics that you can think of.
It also would be really good to hear from you guys if you've heard like what people said after this election, other than maybe they didn't receive a mail. Like, why do you think people voted no?
Pocketbook.
Pocketbook, Karen?
Just money.
It's a pocketbook issue, period. And especially some of our higher end neighborhoods down along the lake.
Uh-huh.
All doctors and lawyers down there, and they keep their fingers right on their expenses. And I think this is just one more thing that came up, and they're going to say no. That's why we have to really convince them by bringing out some of the negatives.
Mhm.
I like that idea.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And their services will be very, very directly impacted, correct?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, just only for the sake of moving things forward here, I think it sounds like we have a consensus. We have an outline of a plan. I guess I would just like to make sure that both Harry and Steve are okay if I continue to represent the board on these somewhat infrequent meetings that might need to happen between Chris and Karen and Heather. Is that okay if they need to bounce something off of the board or get some feedback? Is that okay if I continue to do that? And if not, if one of you guys want to do it, great. Just understand that because of open public meeting laws, and the 3-member board, we pretty much can only have one person who's that liaison, and I did it. That's what I usually do, but I'm open to conversation.
I'm open to that point.
Yes, I'm fine with that as well. If obviously just keep us in the loop as much as you're able to. That would be great. But yeah, I have no problem with that at all.
Yeah, so basically what happened last time is I'm typically one they're bouncing, language off of, or ideas, thoughts. They need maybe a go ahead to sort of move something to the next step. And before really any decisions are made on any kind of a final product or, authorizing something, I guess, significant that's more than just the day-to-day keeping things rolling, that always would come before the board, either at a regular meeting or a special meeting. I wouldn't make those kind of decisions on my own.
Well, and we'll be sure and share drafts of everything. And one thing we've talked about, I mean, we'll put down on paper a little timeline-ish kind of plan. We sort of talk through these steps, but say from now until election day, kind of, and here's when the mailer, the first draft will happen, here's when it's finalized, here when it goes to print, here's when it's supposed to hit homes, all those kinds of things, along with then we can put in like, school starts. So are there opportunities around school that you can look at? And I do think that having some sort of regular touch point, I recognize we can't all three do it, but I want to keep all three of you commissioners engaged. And it's easy to go away and get busy in your real lives, and then it's going to be November 2nd. So we got to figure out a way to keep you excited and, motivated about doing this.
Does it make sense to schedule a couple special meetings between now and for this board between now and the beginning of October, so that we have time to okay, here's the people we're going to talk to individually as commissioners, and here's what we're going to say to them. And we've looked at the first draft of this mailer all together again, and we're all good with it. And then we're looking at the second draft, and here's how it's going on getting those meetings set up to go talk to everybody. We just really keep our feet to the fire. That we do that outreach, which is going to make the difference. And maybe you guys, if we send the initial calendar, you can think about, I can't remember off the top of my head, forgive me, how often you regularly meet during a month? Once? Okay, so I think we should try to schedule a couple extra meetings to talk in September just about this stuff and make sure we're doing all the thing and the stuff that we can and should be. With Chris's assistance in getting that calendar, that would be what I think would be important.
Agreed.
Yeah, we will try. We'll see how that goes. September is a busy month, but everybody's busy, and yeah, but I agree. I mean, yeah, if we need to meet at a special meeting, the only reason I hesitate is I'm just thinking I would just want to make sure that we're productive. There's a cost associated with having a special commissioner meeting. We also have the ability of, Chris is able to disseminate information, to the individual commissioners. That keeps the other people appraised on what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I guess I'm just hesitating right now to schedule a number of special meetings right now. I don't know, but that I'm just thinking out loud. Maybe we need to, and that would be the best thing to do. I'm just getting caught up in the weeds of the details.
When's your next board meeting?
13th of September.
Couple weeks.
13th. Yep.
Okay. What if we had one early in September that's just really like here's the kickoff of getting you guys armed and publicly ready to go, and then you could have we could do an update at the September board meeting, and just a quick, these don't have to be long meetings. It's really more of a quick reporting out, hearing what you're hearing back, tweaking things as need be, and just keeping your energy up. Honestly, it's 3 months. It's going to go really quickly, and we're going to all of a sudden be at in October, and we're going to be like, oh, we need to keep the feet to the fire.
Okay, so you're thinking of some kind of a special board meeting the week of September 6th. Is that right?
Yeah, or the first, sorry, I've got all of a sudden everybody coming into my house. It got very loud. I would say if you have a September 13th, what if even, I don't know, maybe that first week of September, the first, second, or third. Okay. And then do the 13th, and we'll see where we are.
Mhm.
Okay. So Steve, Harry, is that something you'd want to have a special meeting for before our next board meeting on the 13th?
You call it. I'm open for any time, and I have open for any time. So you call it.
Steve?
Yeah, I think that would be a good idea. I like the idea. It's if we do it like somewhere in the neighborhood of Friday the 3rd or something, that's about a week and a half from
Yeah.
now.
Okay.
That'll give us chances on both sides to get any information we have, and then, yeah, sort of agree on what concrete steps we're taking moving forward on the, whenever that meeting is. So yeah, I think at least putting one on the calendar for now is a good idea.
Okay,
You mentioned there's a cost, Mark. Is that, you mean monetary cost?
just the cost of putting together a board meeting like this.
Okay. I just wanted to be sure I understood what you were saying.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
So, yeah, so I guess offline, Jason and our Chris, maybe you can try to put together, a meeting that'll work for everybody. Sounds like either the 1st, 2nd, or 3rd.
And we'll be efficient. And I think, to reiterate, for that meeting, I think we want to have all the materials about the consequences, right? The story of what will happen if this does not pass. We'll have a timeline with deadlines and things inserted in there in terms of things that we know. And then what you guys will be responsible for bringing is lists of who you're going to talk to and the types of groups. And then we will get you ready to rock and roll for that, like right after Labor Day, that you can be more public.
Okay. And then if you guys need some kind of touch from the board between now and then, of course, feel free to reach out to me, and I'll give you whatever kind of support you need.
Thank you.
Sounds great.
Sounds really good.
All right.
And we will crack this nut, people. We will crack it.
Yeah, good. All right. Anything else from anybody?
I just have a question for Harry.
Yeah.
Harry, I really appreciate that you said right out, it's pocketbook. What do you think those retired doctors and lawyers in their multi-million-dollar, really pretty houses, what do they need to hear to give up some money? The benefits didn't impress them. So
I think that's why it's so important, is to start pointing out the negatives, because those negatives are going to change their mind.
okay,
If they understand what's going to happen if they don't pass this.
okay,
Yeah, I would echo that. I think I agree with Harry. I think we really need to, I know we're beating a dead horse a bit, but we really need to clearly paint a picture, just a matter of fact, kind of, okay, if this doesn't pass, here is what's going to happen.
here's the consequences.
You know,
Okay,
here's the reduced level of service. Here's, because I think that's going to communicate to most people, what is the impact if I don't vote for this?
Yep.
So,
Yeah. And I
Thank
think
you.
our attorney, when we end up running this by our attorney, I'm confident that he will acknowledge that, we're not threatening anybody when we talk about what the facts of reduced and cut services are. That's just the way it's going to be. So I'm with everybody. It needs to not be black, maybe, but kind of gray or toward darker gray.
okay,
Yeah.
And they value the service, right? It's not a matter of that. And I think they just really maybe either didn't understand or don't get the dire situation that the district is in. Okay. I mean, and unfortunately it's a compliment to the services that have been provided, that it's been a little out of sight, out of mind, a lot out of sight, out of mind. But this is just the new normal, is that, these districts have to go back and ask for money. So you need your voters to get used to hearing it and understanding the value they get for approving these types of things.
Well, and I wonder how many of our customers even know that we don't even have our own fire department. They're used to seeing such an amazing response level. They see District 21 folks, they see the Bellingham Fire Department, the county medic units, and they probably just think when they drive by this fire hall, oh, it's a big, beautiful fire station with lots of bays and a training tower, and we have a great fire department. When in fact, they probably don't realize that we have a contract for others to provide service. So, and just how we need funds to pay the contract, let alone, try to hire our own fire department, which isn't going to happen anytime soon or ever. So I just think there's a lot of factual information that people don't even realize what kind of emergency response environment they even live in.
Yeah. I'm working with an agency right now. It's a city that is like 9 square miles. They got 4 stations, 4 fire stations.
Wow.
And when I think what you guys you're covering 130 square miles with 4 stations, and you don't have backup on 2 sides of your district. It's really astonishing what you're able to do. As I think the chief said it really well to that Como reporter, like, yeah, you could say we're stretched thin. Yeah. Like seriously stretched thin.
But that's where it has to come from people they know and trust, not from a piece of paper that lands in their mailbox. Like, we can say it as eloquently as possible, but when it comes from you guys and the chief, and will help you be ready to say it, it's going to resonate a lot better, and it will become more emotional and more real.
I think we ought to point out also, other than the EMS levy that we passed, that our fire district hasn't asked for an upgrade to our payments every tax time for 27 years.
Yeah. Yep. All right. Well, just as the guy watching the clock, I gotta honor the chief's request at the beginning of the meeting that he has another commitment here at 4. So I think we have a plan. We're all on the same page. I think this was really helpful and productive. And unless anybody has something else that would benefit us, I would like to adjourn this special meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Thank you all for coming.
Yeah. Thanks.